Is my screen visible? I shared my screen.
Yes,
Please let me
yes.
know. Okay. So before I get into the course, can you please tell me about a quick introduction? Are you already working or a fresher? So based on that, I can deliver the content.
My name is Vinod. Actually, I was working as a Scrum Master.
Okay.
So due to the recession, means there was no project. So right now I'm not working. So I'm looking for the job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gopal.
Hey, hi everyone. This is Gopal Ganadiwal, and being 10 plus of experience, basically in .NET and RPA. So I wanted to learn something new. That's why I'm here.
Okay. Okay. Nagendra.
Hi, my name is Nagendra. I just did masters in information systems. Currently in Connecticut.
Who else is there? Sai.
Hi everyone. I am working in a tech support company in Bangalore since past 5 years.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. How many of you are already aware of this DevOps? Anyone?
A very high level like CI/CD, kind of.
Okay. Okay. Before getting into the Azure DevOps, let me talk about DevOps first for some time. So, what is generally a development project or any project if you take? So there will be a life cycle. Earlier, if you see the people used to follow the waterfall model where the things will happen in a sequence mode rather than in a parallel mode, right? So first the requirement team will gather the information, then they will pass the information to the architects. Then architects will design it, then it will go to the development and QA like that, right? So there is a problem with that, and the time which takes to deliver these with this model is huge, right? See, there is the problem with this. If you see this picture, there are different teams. In a high level, you can see development team and operations team, right? So the coordination between the development team and the operations team with the old style of waterfall model is not that easy, right? First, development team will do everything, then they will give it to the operations team. Then they'll say it is not working, right? Then it will come back to the development saying, no, it is working in my environment. No, there is something wrong with your environment. So more of blame game between the environments. Like my environment, it is working, your environment, there is something wrong. There is no proper coordination and cooperation between the teams. That is lacking actually. That is resulting in a project delays, right? To avoid that, the concept of DevOps is introduced, right? What is DevOps? Creating a proper handshake between the teams. Again, I majorly will talk about the development team and operations team. Of course, there are other teams. They will also fall under one of these, right? So what happens between the, I mean, that with the DevOps model? So there will be a proper handshake between the development team and the operations team. So how can we create that environment? Let's say, see the previous picture. So development team will develop that, then they will deploy in something in local environments. Then they will make a note of that. Then that will be passed to operations team once that everything is done. Then operations team will test it. Then finally they will find some bugs. Then again it will come back to development team. So this is a lengthy process, right? Here what happens? Things will happen in parallel. Development team as well as operations team. Once the development team is developing, the parallelly things will move to or given to the operations team. Then the feedback will also go equally immediately. So development team can work on it along with the development process itself, so that the rework of fixing those issues which will be reported in a later stage will be saved, right? So that's how the DevOps will help in a better way to develop the projects, right? So typical different phases of DevOps is, this is the DevOps phases. First, it will start with plan, then coding, build, test, integration, deployment, operations. This entire process will be monitored by few monitoring tools. So what is here? It is infinite loop. So everything, once the plan is done, it will go immediately, it will come here. Again, it is a loop. So there is a proper handshake which is creating between the teams so that they will get the feedbacks immediately and they can work on it. See, generally, people will start planning, then it will go to the coding. Once coding is done, then build. Forget about how part. I'll explain you how can we create the integration, integrating all these phases and do it. For now, just try to understand the concept, right? Once the build is done, automatically next the trigger will go to the test. Once the test is done, then it will go to the integration team. Integrations done, then it will automatically deploy into the different environments, right? This is how the DevOps will help in development process.
Oh, where do we work in that process?
Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll come to maybe next in few slides. I'll cover that topic. Okay. So now, by doing this, everything is fine. But if you see the present world, what is the biggest problem in present world? Anyone? Which we are seeing? The major problems. Any project, irrespective of project, company, there is one common problem.
Coordination.
Maybe dependency
Yeah, these are
with
all
resource.
yes, within the project, but global level, there are few problems, which are cyber attacks. To take any project, there are so many attacks are happening, especially the banking domains, telecom domains, right? Major companies also are getting attacked these days. So at an average, how many attacks are attempting, do you know? It's more than 2000 attacks are happening every day. So the biggest challenge, even following the DevOps model will help in delivering the project and resolving the coordination problems and whatever the points you just told. But on top of it, there is another problem, which is security, right? To avoid that, the future is going to be this one, DevSecOps. Okay. So that's why I just want to talk a few points. The DevSecOps, the security, integrating the security at the every phase, at the every level of your life cycle, as DevOps phases, is nothing but DevSecOps. Okay. I'll just talk about the DevSecOps as well. This is the typical DevOps. Coding will happen, compile unit, commit. Who will be doing this? Development team will be doing this. Build will happen. Again, once the development coding is done, then it will come to the build phase. Compile package, smoke, hard testing, or few things. Once build is done, your artifacts are ready, then it will move to the test environments. Once QA certifies it, then it will be moved to the delivery, whether it can be production or pre-deployment, many based on the environment. What is DevSecOps then? Introducing the security at the every phase from the starting stage itself, right? From the coding itself, if you start implementing the security, or if you follow the guidelines, security, whatever the security requirements are there, security guidelines, then we will be delivering a more secure product, right? So these are the different tools or methodologies which can be integrated at every phase of your DevOps model. Okay. Coding stage, threat modeling and design reviews. At compile stage, you can do the code analysis using multiple tools. I just mentioned one static analysis here. Again, dynamic analysis and security testing, and deployment stage, security assessment, secure and configuration. There are a few guidelines and tools which can be incorporated at every phase. I will talk about that as well. Right. This is the typical DevSecOps lifecycle. Right. There's no the major difference between DevOps and DevSecOps. Don't get confused too much. It's simple. Introducing the security tools at every phase of DevOps model. It is like more advanced. The DevOps is a subset of DevSecOps. Simple. And these are the different tools which can be integrated for the DevSecOps model. Okay. Okay. This is the difference which we talked already about. So what is the advantage of by following the, so in interviews, maybe if you talk about DevSecOps, that itself will have more weightage for you, right? The consideration will be more because every company is looking for the security people now, right? So what is the advantage of by following the DevSecOps model? Early detection of issues, then faster delivery, improve agility. The major important thing is no costly rewards. The amount and the cost we spend to do the rework is more than, sometimes it's more than the project development, right? Ultimately, we'll end up delivering the more secure application. Clear? So these are the different tools, and someone was asking, right, where will be our role? So I'll talk about here. So majorly the source code and the at the source code level, these are the different tools: GitHub, GitLab, Collaborate, Teamforce. These are the different tools which we are using right now. Top is most of the companies, I think, using Git now, right? So most of the here in this phase development team will work. CI servers, this is where most of the time our role will come. In Jenkins, Kubernetes, Docker. So here we'll play the major role actually here after a development phase, right? Under the CI servers, you have CI tools like Jenkins, Electric Cloud, Go, GitLab for testing, and then it will go to the artifacts. So here you will use the Kubernetes, Docker, Nexus. These are the few tools again I'm not talking about, but these are the major tools which are used in most of the companies. So majority of the tools.
Yes, can I have one question here, please?
Yes.
What we understand, like source code means like a GitLab, some kind of tools which will helpful for us to maintain the code repository and build a release kind of thing. So that's what our understanding. Maybe CI server, under CI servers, Jenkins and Electric Cloud, something you mentioned, right? How it will helpful for us? Like what is the main what is the main work, like main usage of these tools? Like testing means Kubernetes and Docker should helpful for testing to make the testing.
Right.
Okay.
So what is happening now? The Jenkins is basically a CI/CD tool. What is CI/CD? Continuous integration and deployment. So earlier, the old style of model is like how it used to happen. Development team will develop this code, then they will pass it to the whatever the next level, next phase, then they will pass it to the next phase, then they will pass it to the next phase, right? So this used to happen in a sequence mode, right? So there is no parallel thing here. Do you have any idea of the waterfall model? Simple. I think if you think forget about technically, theoretically, you can in general if you think of waterfall. What is waterfall?
Okay, got
It
it
will be
now.
falling from top to bottom,
Yeah.
right?
Got it. CA stands for continuous integration,
Integration,
right?
right?
Okay,
So
got it.
connecting these points continuously. You
Mm.
see your DevOps this one. Once test build is done, testing will happen automatically by continuously integrating.
Okay,
So I'll talk about that how to
yeah,
integrate it, but in
got
a
it.
high
And
level, you got it, right?
yeah, using Jenkins or Electric Cloud, we can achieve this continuous
Exactly.
integration
Integration
task.
as well as deployment.
Okay, but what about artifacts, your Nexus, and what is the main usage of that? Like, for example, testing, we are using Kubernetes and Docker. Like artifacts, how? What
Okay.
is that?
Okay. Just do an example. Now, once the build is completed, your source code, you will
Okay.
get your objects. Either it can be exe or binaries, whichever the format. It's called artifacts, right? Saving those artifacts is important, right? When you are in production, these artifact servers are really helpful. How? Let's say I'll take simple example. Every day you have McAfee or some security antivirus tool in your laptops, McAfee or any tool, right? Most of them
Yes.
will have, right? One of the
Yes.
antivirus detection tool. Every day, not one. multiple patches will be released for these security tools. Anything for them. You take Google, you take any streaming companies, Amazon or Netflix. Any number of patches will be there every day. Not one, two, not in hundreds, it will be in thousands. Okay. Those many patches will be applied every day.
Sorry to interrupt, Bhaskar. Your voice is very feeble.
Oh, is it? Just give a sec.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was talking. Okay. Patches, right?
Yeah, Gopal.
So if
Yeah.
if you are these testings earlier used to test an environment or something, most of the things will be created using Kubernetes and Docker combinations now, right? The containers will be created within the fraction of seconds, and the testing will happen over there. Even the creation of this is integrated again, automated, and part of your CI/CD process or DevOps process, right? These artifacts, whether it can be in the form of containers or the objects or the binaries, will be saved like version controlling again. There will be a couple of versions. So in those cases, the Nexus kind of tools are very useful. Is it clear? Basically storing or saving your artifacts, objects or built objects.
Okay.
Okay. So that these are the tools will be used, and the production and deployment like Ansible, Puppet, and Chef. These are the major three tools which are used. So what is the advantage of this? Again, to deploy your objects, whatever is integrated for the CI/CD server, we'll use one of these tools to deploy into the respective servers, right? This is one thing. And again, for this entire process will be monitored by some of the tools like Jebex, Negios, or Elasticsearch, Elka, right? So I'll talk about monitoring. Basically, it will monitor completely, and it will give you alerts in case of some discrepancies or unexpected events, many things which we cannot sit. There will be logs, hundreds or lakhs of logs. We cannot sit and analyze all those logs. That's where these tools are very, very useful these days to analyze automatically and send you the notifications and reports. Okay. But this is the DevOps model. For this, again, which I don't want to spend more time here. These are the different security tools which can be integrated for every stage here. 45, again, we talked Coverity, McAfee, Palameda, SonarQube. We'll talk in detail once we get into the actual sessions. So at high level, these are the different security tools which can be integrated for this. Now, this is fine. Very good. What is DevOps? You understood what is DevOps now, right? Any doubts in this DevOps process?
So Bhaskar, as we know, there are different methodology of development that we can have agile or lean. So is it the DevOps only integrate if we adopt those methodology or it is difficult to adopt with the waterfall model of development?
Exactly. That's what I'm going to talk next. So if you see here, there are n number of tools and which are not connected actually. You as a DevOps engineer has to integrate and work on individual tools and integrate all these things and create like another framework, which will be our headache, our DevOps engineers headache, with the combination of develop upstream and us basically, right? So this is the biggest difference between the Azure DevOps and DevOps. What Azure DevOps will give you is the combination of all these tools, whatever we talked till now here, whatever tools we have here, into a single framework, which is kind of SaaS, software as an application, right? So that is what the Azure DevOps will give. Instead of working on all these things, there is an integrated framework which is kind of readily available to use. Just plug and play, right? And start using that. That is what Azure DevOps, right? It was actually, what is Azure DevOps? Azure DevOps was actually a team service, VST. Yes, if you have heard about this, actually initially it was started with this VSTS. Now that has become slowly and now it is called Azure DevOps. So that's what I was talking, right? So it is Azure DevOps is a SaaS, software as a service. So whatever the tools we talked about this here, integrating all these things. Forget about tools here. Azure has its own equivalent tools for this. I'll come to that point in 1 or 2 slides. Okay. So that is what the Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps is a integrated product to use this framework kind of thing. Whatever the tools we are using here till now, we talked about DevOps model. So all those things are integrated into a single product, and which can be a single tool where we need to learn in a single tool and play with that. Okay. So what are the different components are available in Azure DevOps? There are 5 major components in Azure DevOps. One is Azure Boards.
Is DevOps and cloud computing same?
Cloud computing is part of DevOps.
Okay.
I'll talk about in a few slides that point also. Oh, the cloud will play. Cloud will be one of the environment for DevOps. That's all. See, DevOps can be done in on-premises or one of the cloud cloud. Either it can be GCP, AWS, or Azure. Right? It depends on their requirement. Or many companies will be using most of the 3 tools, at least 2. Right. So it's all depends on the requirement and project specification. There are few projects who will specifically want on-premises servers, like banking domains. They don't want to go on public clouds for most of the banks, which I know. Right. These are the major components in a Azure DevOps model. I think instead of this, just give me 1 sec. I will show directly so that will help you in a better way. So you need to log into the dev.azure.com. So this is what Azure DevOps. What is here? There is nothing. So we need to create organization first. Once you create organization, so you will have straight away, just create a project. Under the project, you will find this. You have wiki, you have boards, you have repos, you have pipelines, you have test plans, you have artifacts. See, all these 5 components are equivalent to the tools which we have just talked about here.
Oscar, this dev.azure.com, which the website you have logged in, right? Like, is it registration required or can?
Yes, we need to register this.
Okay, is it a free?
It is a free. Yes. Okay, I'll talk about that also. What is free? How much? For
credit card
for our purpose? No. For our purpose, it is free account. You can use it more than enough.
Okay, maybe
there are a number of users.
I tried something. Maybe it is asking credit card something, Azure account or something like that. Maybe dev.azure.com is not at all required.
No. Okay, you are talking about 2 different things here.
Okay.
See, this one I'm talking about to work on these boards, repos, pipelines, test plans, artifacts.
Okay.
Just give me 1 sec. I'll clarify that also for you.
This is Azure board, right?
Yes, Canbot. Here. I thought of talking here. There's free more than enough actually. Where you can see here what you will get with free. Azure pipelines, Azure boards, Azure repos. Right. If you want for more users, then you have to go for paid version. Otherwise, minimal things you'll get with.
Okay, what is the link of that for registration?
I'll share that. I'll share. I have this document. Okay. I have complete details. Okay. So you can register. So the wiki now you can enter here whatever the details you want. Get project wiki and just create a document here. Upload the images, everything which is available for the centralized boards. What is boards? Here, just to compare. Here, right? So your source code CI. In the source code, developers generally what happens. Let me go here. Okay. So this is a single tool. That's what I want to show here basically. So where you have all the components are integrated in a single tool. If you go again within these boards, you have multiple things again, right? If you go to project settings, we have so many options here. If we expertise with all these options in this tool, dev.azure.com, you can become a Azure DevOps engineer. Instead of learning all these individual tools, that is the biggest advantage when compared to DevOps with other DevOps tools and all. So Azure DevOps will help you there. So it is quick and easy to learn, right? If you spend maximum 2 months, you can become a Azure DevOps engineer, right? With a single framework. There are many options. You just need to play with these things, which are already integrated, which are ready to use. Okay. So I will go back to the presentation. In every component, you have different again tasks or tools, you can say, right? See the repos, which is equal to your Git, commits, pushes, branches, tags, pull requests, pipelines, which is CI/CD, where we are using Jenkins. They have named it in a different way, but the concepts remain same. Okay, but you have all integrated into a single framework. That is the biggest advantage with Azure DevOps. Yeah. So this picture will explain you clearly. If you understand this, please try to understand this. This is so nicely depicted here, which will explain the complete Azure DevOps. If you understand this, you are like the Azure DevOps concepts. Okay, it is so simple, which is linked to your life cycles. See, generally what happens, customer will give his requirements, right? Customer will come with his requirement. Then once the requirements are ready, let me take a pointer. Here, once the customer comes with the requirements, we need to take all those requirements. Earlier we used to make a documents, maintain those documents, type all those things, right? Now the boards, which we just saw in Azure DevOps, boards will help you to create those tasks in the form of tasks, basically the requirements, and add all these things into a board, which is called Kanban board, right? So everything will be added to the Kanban board. Then once your requirements are ready, development team will come and those requirements will be assigned to the development teams, respective development teams, based on their work or whatever role, right? Once that is done, then it will go to the, once the developers will maintain their local repos. Ultimately here the repos required once they start the coding, right? Version controlling, basically. I think most of you are aware of what is version controlling, right? What is the advantage of the repos, right? The maintenance of the source code. Now it is mandatory that, or the recommended 100% to keep maintaining a repos. So that's where the Azure repos will help you to maintain your source control, right? Developers will check in their source code into the repos by using the process called pull requests. See, developers will develop their source code. There will be 100 developers. They cannot check in whatever way they want, right? So there will be a review process. So that's where the pull request has to raise by the individual developers. The seniors or the leads will review that code. Then they will approve to integrate it to the integration branches. That's where the build CI servers or the pipelines will read the source code from the repos where the integration branches, after approving the pull request, the pipelines will read the source code from the integration branches and start the build. It will trigger the build. Okay, these are all automated, automatically integrated. Actually, what we need to do, see here, once the, as soon as the check-in happens, assume that the check-in happens. Check-in is nothing but just saving the source code into the repository. Okay, automatically build will get triggered. So it is connected. The rules are defined like that. So we have to do that actually. That is our one of the major work, right? Once the build is done, automatically that will using here, you can see here the CI servers, then the artifacts called objects. Don't get confused with Azure artifacts is different than the build objects. This is not actually, these are the build objects. Once the build objects are ready, then put it into the testing environment, right? Once the testing environment is ready, I mean, validated or the predefined test cases, whatever was written, once it is successfully completed, then it will go to the UAT, which is user acceptance testing, right? So in between, once the here there are different I just mentioned here testing as well as UAT. There will be a number of environments based on the project, but just in a high level test environment you can consider. Once your artifacts are ready, that will be deployed into the test environment. There, once you pass the UAT, user acceptance testing, right? The real users will start actually doing this after this 9.1.10. The business users start testing the UAT environment here, the real requirement. Once that is done, if they find any defects or thing, then again they will be entered into the board, Kanban board again, boards. That's where this link is here, link. See, in case of any issues, immediately they will be reporting. So again, here, the development or respective developer will read that and they will fix that issue again. So if you see here in this picture, once this is done, then and finally it will go to the deployment production. Everything is connected here in a single framework. There is no time delays. There is no, if you see here, proper coordination is happening at every stage, right? So this is overall the Azure DevOps lifecycle. Is it clear here? Any doubts here? So whatever we discussed earlier, everything is connected, and this is how the Azure DevOps model will work in real-time project.
Okay, one question.
We'll talk about practical thing, how to add all those tasks in Kanban board and how to assign those things into the development team, then how to integrate those things to the repos, and how to build or create triggers once the check-in is happened. There are different triggers, right? Schedulers, basically, it's called. So based on schedulers, whether you want on request or on demand or like as soon as check-in, all those things, there are different options to do that. So that will happen. Then once that is done, how to integrate this objects or how to deploy the objects into the test environment or production environments, all those things, practically how to add it, we'll talk in next sessions. Actually, in a high level, this is what, forget about practical things. We can talk about practical later.
Hello.
Okay. I have one question, Bhaskar, from my end.
Yes.
So what kind of applications are suitable for with the DevOps? Maybe like web applications or Windows or like SAP based or like is it like a RPA application? Like what kind of applications is majorly suits?
Anything can be used, any project type, any application type can be fit in this framework. There are different while creating the project itself. You have options, what kind of project, whether it is agile project or simple normal project, right? Those options will be enabled at the time of, I mean, one of the option which you need to select at the time of project creation.
Okay, but
If it is a simple straightforward application, go for with the basic framework. If it is complicated or the number of developers are more, then go with the agile practice, agile framework. Based on that single selection, your framework will be simplified.
Okay, then maybe for maybe curiosity, I'm asking, like say, for example, you are talking about the CA servers, right? Like maybe Jenkins or something like that.
Right.
Maybe that service needs to be support to the other the tools or the platform, right? For example, if RPA will be there, so how the code will be like a the code should be implemented like a CI environment, like continuous integration like that. Maybe those things should be supported like any limited will be there.
No limitation. to answer your question, Azure DevOps has the predefined all these 5 components or 6, right? These components and these are the project settings. On top of it, you have something called marketplace here. Let me switch off here. Can you see here? This is marketplace. If you browse this, you can integrate any individual or your standalone or the proprietary tools, right?
Any third-party tools.
Any third-party tools.
Okay.
You can integrate it here and plug here. So this is there are a number of, you see here, SonarCube is not part of, example, the one of the tool I was talking about here, right? For security tools, if you see here, there are different tools, right? SonarCube, Palameda, McAfee. To go here, just search for SonarCube. You can integrate SonarCube. You have that option. You have that flexibility to integrate, which are not inbuilt with this Azure DevOps.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Maybe I'm looking for that URL which you showcased with us, dev.azure or something. The
Sure,
free
sure.
account.
We'll ask. I'll share the documents. Ravi can share it with you guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is another way of representing the Azure DevOps model. Generally, what happens? Azure DevOps will key in all the requirements, right? The developers will be assigned for those requirements. Once they will work on different, just mentioned Visual Studio or whatever it is. Once their development is done, they will push their code to Azure repos, which is equivalent to Git. Git also can be integrated. So any tool can be integrated, which is third-party tools which you are using in our project. Once it is checked in or committed to the repos, trigger the build. Once the build is done, then push the artifacts to artifact servers, right? Once that basic pipeline is completed, then move it to the continuous deployment servers. So in deployment, again, you have multiple like dev stage, QA stage, production stage in a high level. You can have different stages based on your requirement. So it will be deployed to the development stage. Then once it is done, the automatically, if it is a web application, the equivalent web application will be brought up. If it is a QA, then the respective QA applications will be brought up. But when it comes to the production, always we'll use the 2 slots. See, now if you see, I was talking about there will be thousands of patches every day which are applying for most of the applications which we are using on our day-to-day. But are we facing any downtime? We'll never realize that, right? So using this concept, we'll talk about how to implement that, but this is how they will do it. There will be different slots. So every patch, any new patches, they will be applying into the one slot. So until then, the other slot will be running. Once this is certified, everything is valid, working as expected, then automatically the switchover will happen to the new slot. So that's how, with zero downtime, the patches are getting applied for most of the applications. Right? So we'll talk about how to implement this, all those things. Right? So this is the major advantage when compared to the DevOps versus Azure DevOps. So easy to learn, which is an integrated tool, so which we can use in a single framework. Right. This is what in a high level. So please let me know if you have any questions. I can clarify.
Yes, sir. I have one question.
Yes.
Actually, in AWS, we need to configure every things or every tool into the Jenkins. Like, for suppose we need to configure Ansible to the Jenkins and Git to the Jenkins, like that. But in Azure, do we need to configure all these things, or we can find all these things into the dashboard, which you just showed earlier?
Most of the features are available, which are equivalent to the what I showed in DevOps, whatever you are asking. In case if it is not available, we have to use the marketplace and integrate it.
Okay. We need to integrate
But
here.
it is
also?
easy to learn when compared to other DevOps practices.
Yes, sir. My question is, do we need to integrate here also all those things into the single thing?
That's what I said. Most of the features are already available.
Okay.
Right. If
So
you are looking for any specific thing which is not available, then using the marketplace, you can integrate it. If it is not available.
Okay.
So the specific feature, whatever you want.
Integration is it's easier. It's you have to learn.
It's a one-time thing. That's what, if you are well versed about all these options, right? It is easy.
So, Bhaskar, it's more about like configuration, right? So there's
Yes.
no need of doing any coding.
No
or
coding is required.
no coding.
Sometimes it is useful scriptings, but not mandatory.
What kind of scriptings are those?
I mean, in case if project specific, we may have to do our few project specific requirements integrated with Python or Perl or Node.js, and those things also can be added. Added advantage, that's all. It's not mandatory as part of this requirement.
So Azure DevOps supports that kind of scripting as well. Is it?
No, I'm talking about in case if you have, let's say example, if you are using Jenkins. In Jenkins, you can automate few things by using one of the script. So ultimately your Jenkins will come and integrate it here.
Okay.
Or SonarQube. If you want to do the static code analysis, take the same example. At project level, most of the time this will be done by the development team itself. Will be the integrators or configuration team. Just I'm saying added advantage. That's all. It's not mandatory.
Okay. So in the background, whatever configuration we do, does it can we see the source code, like any kind of a code, what all integration is happening in the background, or just we can see the UI only? Like suppose you pulled out something under pipelines, and then you
we can see the code. You have again different roles are there. Again in the Azure DevOps, based on your role, your permissions will be assigned. If you have if your role is having access or permissions, but okay, to answer your question, you can see that based on role only it will be visible.
So we can
roles are there. Roles will define that whether you can see or not.
We can do it through.
Yes.
And what kind of language are those scripts are into? Like PowerShell scripts? Or
it is not fixed actually. It is mix of many things.
Okay. And suppose this Azure DevOps has been adopted by the organization, so they go for subscription level, right?
Right.
So at every project, see, this will be sitting at the top of the all development projects, right?
Correct.
So everybody using this common. So we are like not we means who are going to implement this DevOps for the other projects or programs. So going to maintain the same user ID like subscription for all the common one, or each project wise they have to maintain one subscription.
It depends actually for that. If you see here, showing that where is it? So
Even developers can see, or those people managers can also see this.
No. That's what I said. The role based. It is completely role based, right? So based on your current position, you can assign the associated role.
Who will do this? The permission admin.
So you can be the admin if you are the senior person for that project.
Okay.
Or your lead will do that.
Sir, if you join these classes, on what time the classes? I mean, the session timings will be every day, sir.
Every day it will be there.
On what time, sir?
Timings, I think. Ravi, are you there?
Yeah, sir. Same timings as usual.
Okay.
How long
that is not a problem. Maybe we
can.
it is kind of more flexible there.
How long the training is for?
It is 45 to 50 sessions. It depends on if the need is more, we can cover and we can. So it depends, but overall 45 to 50 sessions are required.
Is it like Terraform also should covered under this program, like training program?
Terraform also I will cover because it is required.
Okay.
Because that is the one of the important tool for the cloud platforms.
Yes, sir. The Kubernetes and Docker is also be covered.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I think they'll share the content in case you have any specific thing. Probably can uh, write to us. Is the course content, so you can check that.
Yeah, can you skim through that course content now? It will be easy.
Sir, we will share it, sir. No problem.
Yeah, we'll share it.
So now this is DevSecOps or DevOps discourse.
This is Azure DevOps. I was just showing the
Okay.
difference between DevOps and Azure DevOps so that it is easy for you to learn and understand compared to the
Azure DevOps is like DevSecOps.
Yeah, this will fall under DevSecOps as well. Yes. Security tools are also part of this. You can integrate. That's what I just showed you, right? SonarQube. SonarQube is one of the security tool.
I have a doubt. You mean that what all the DevOps tools available are also available in Azure, right?
Yes, equivalent tools.
Yeah. Okay.
The names are maybe different. That's what I said. If we say repos, there we are using Git. Here it's called Azure repos. There we are using CI/CD, right? Jenkins, Git, GitLab. Here it is called pipelines. Your purpose will be solved in a different way, easiest way than
What
compared
about
to the other.
Docker, Kubernetes?
It will fall under this one of this pipelines integration or test plans. See, these days everything is containerization. So without containerization, things are not easy, right? So everything will be there. Containers. Using containers only, the world is moving today.
The DevOps part is same, but the only thing is the cloud part is different. Is it, sir, from AWS DevOps to Azure DevOps?
Yes. AWS DevOps is different. Azure DevOps is different. They will be focused more on the AWS tools.
Okay.
Azure is focused on their own tools. They are the competitors, right? But slowly, the Azure DevOps is dominating others actually because of that.
Are there cloud jobs
DNS
without
architecture.
DevOps?
Sorry?
Are there cloud jobs without DevOps? Like complete cloud? Like cloud infrastructure, like cloud engineer?
Okay. Do you know what exactly the cloud engineer does?
No, that's why I asked.
Okay, it's deployment most of the time. So your deployment is part of DevOps, right? See, what happens earlier, the companies used to maintain the hardware into their labs, right? So they used to maintain the servers on premises, and that is a big headache, right? Now the simple thing, the hardware is moved to cloud. The cloud providers are giving the hardware. Use it if you want for 1 week. The project, most of the project will not run for years, right? I mean, development I'm talking about. See, for 1 month, if their development is happening only for that 1 month, use that cloud, right? Then just
can
pay only
we
for
rely
that.
just on one cloud?
It's all
Hello,
depends on
sir?
your project. If
Okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, the same question.
See, if
Can
your
we
project
rely
is
on one
supporting only one cloud, if that is enough, and your budget is only limited, then just rely on one cloud, right? If the usage, see, it's all depends on the customer. Your product you will release. If customer is using already, assume that your product you have deployed in AWS, but you are selling that product into n number of customers. Out of 100 customers, 20 customers are already using Azure. How will you provide for them? Obviously, you have to go to Azure, right? Or another 20 are using GCP. So you have to deploy your application in GCP as well. to satisfy or to fulfill the other 20 customers' requirement. That way. It depends on your client as well, in which cloud platform he is expecting, right? Don't think too much of that, which platform, everything is same, only tool names are different. That's what concepts are same. Just maybe the tool names and the small few commands are different. That's all.
Sir, I have one
So-
last question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. If we learn Azure DevOps and how I'm asking about like what is the market occupation of this Azure DevOps, or how can we get the jobs? I mean, it is as compared to AWS DevOps. How many chances we get? I mean,
That's what, if you see as a project level also, managing so many tools is easy, or just managing a single framework is easy for any project.
single framework is easy.
See, obviously, that's what I said. Azure DevOps is dominating solely with other platforms. So because of this framework and the architecture, it is easy to implement and easy to learn.
I hear that there are less opportunities as compared to AWS DevOps to the Azure DevOps in the market right now. Is it right or what?
The slow, that's what I said. It is actually slowly dominating other platforms now.
Okay.
AWS, just because of the cost reasons, people have started using AWS, and this was actually there from long back, right? Compared to Azure DevOps was actually, it is not a new tool, Azure DevOps actually.
Yeah, main thing is
Okay.
budget. Budget.
Yes,
As
budget.
when it comes to the budget, Azure is costly, right?
Any other questions?
So Bhaskar, is it like something when we go, any organization adopts for the Azure DevOps? So that means they have to align themselves with the Azure other services as well. Suppose we need some VMs, so it has to be from the Azure only, or it has to use the other services under Azure only, right?
Not necessarily, right? That's where the marketplace is useful. If you are okay, or if it is within your requirements, Azure is helping, then you can go ahead with the Azure. If not, you can have your own this thing and integrate that here.
No, that is tools what you talk about and what
Right.
But what about the VMs and other services like storage or virtual machines or databases?
The storage and all the artifacts, that's what I said. And the VMs, so where it is linking your VM, actually, if you see here, see, you can have your own VM,
Yeah,
right?
it can be
That VM can
private
be
VM as
integrated.
well.
Right. You can integrate that, not an issue. It's all configuration level. You can manage all those things.
Okay, so
That's what the Azure DevOps has a flexibility of integrating your own things by modifying the configurations.
okay. So it is not necessary it has to go with the cloud servers only. It can be a local
It can no. It can be on premises as well as cloud. It will support both.
Both. But
Yes.
the question may arise, like before adopting this Azure DevOps, they might be asking like whether their data will be storing in the Azure cloud or all the things will be in the on-prem. Just framework will come from the cloud to the local, or everything will go first to the cloud and then they will push it back to the on-prem, how the flow happens in case of this.
Both are available on premises and cloud. So you can choose based on your requirement. If you were
Okay, please, while selecting the project or the tenant, we can choose whether it should be on.
yes.
Okay.
Is that okay? I have on the document. Okay, I'll cover those things in actually subsequent sessions. How to
After
do
this
all those things.
course, means will be known as Azure DevOps engineer or what?
Azure DevOps engineer, yes.
Okay.
So, what kind of certification we can pass after this course?
Certifications.
Any equivalent certification we can pass, like we can.
Within the Azure DevOps, you have few certifications. Probably I'll share those certification details also. If you are interested, you can attempt those certifications. But as part of this course, we are not giving any certification.
No,
Course
you're not giving,
completed.
but we are whether we will be like ready enough to crack those courses.
Yes. Most of the DevOps and Azure DevOps concepts will be covered. So you can clear the few certifications. Yes.
Like which certifications?
DevOps certifications.
Is there any particular DevOps or there are many, what do you say, different variation or something like Azure DevOps architect or something like that?
There are few. Probably I can share. I'll ask Ravi to share those details with you guys. Specific to Azure also there are. Okay, I think it is.
So does it need some kind of brainstorming also to creating the project? Like, okay, the Azure has given its own set of framework, right? But
Yes. You have to do your brainstorming sessions before starting or selecting. That's what if you remember, I was talking about different frameworks, right? So based on your requirement, after having your brainstorming sessions, you can decide while creating the project.
okay.